What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Creative Process Podcast. We are processing art, faith, and culture through a creative lens. And I have my friend here, Damaris Guerra. She's amazing. I'm going to read her bio because it's killer. Okay. So Damaris Guerra, worship leader, recording artist, and content creator. She's in her content creation era, y'all. She's a bilingual worship leader, recording artist, wife, mother, and content creator who shares real life moments rooted in faith, family, and everyday life. She began singing at the age of 4. We're going to talk about that. Traveling with her family on mission work through the United States, Mexico, and Guatemala. From an early age, she developed a deep love for music that became the foundation of her calling. As a bilingual worship leader, Damaris connects with diverse congregations, leading worship in both English and Spanish. Her passion for worship has led her to release original music that continues to impact the worship community. For over 13 years, she has faithfully served in the local church with a heart to inspire others to a deeper relationship with Jesus. And I've seen that in motion, so that's awesome. Her mission is to encourage people to discover their purpose and calling, whether through music, personal growth, or faith. She's also passionate about equipping and discipling young leaders, helping teams lead from a healthy place, build community within the church, and live out the Great Commission. Y'all give it up for Damaris Guerra.
Thank you, Jarrell. It sounds so much better when you read it.
You know what I'm saying? It's that spoken word.
It's that gift you have, bro. You just make everything sound good.
Okay, I need to know. It was crazy, not in a stalker way, but I actually remember like when I first saw you ministering.
No way. Okay, yes, tell me about this.
It was at First Assembly, I think, and David Martin was doing a concert, and you were with your band, and I was doing like some hip hop stuff.
Oh my gosh, you just brought back some memories.
Yes. And I was like, oh my goodness, because I'd never seen Spanish music like in that context, like with a whole live band and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this girl's got it. My goodness.
Gosh.
And so immediate fan at that point, I was like, we got to protect Damaris at all costs, man. So, thank God I've been able to work with you on a song, and it's just been... I've been watching from afar, and then of course, conversations. Yeah. It's just been awesome to see what God's doing in your life, and I'm excited about that. So we're gonna get into your growing up and everything, because what I want to do is kind of like personalize and humanize people who are just doing amazing things, and I think you're doing amazing things out there. So, but I want people to connect on a deeper level. So tell me about your growing up. What that looked like for you.
Well, I'm a pastor's kid, evangelist kid.
Come on, PK.
Ministry kid. So I think that it's funny because I look back at my childhood as the coolest thing. It was like the greatest blessing. But it's funny because I know that that's not how everybody would look back. Like I feel like you have a lot of kids that grow up in ministry, and unfortunately they can't all say the same thing. And I get why, because I was friends with a ton of pastors' kids as well. Like being in those circles, like I know what it's like to kind of grow up and be like, did I love church? Did I love, or was I just born into it? And I'm grateful that although, yes, I was born into it, I'm genuinely grateful that God allowed me to live just such a beautiful childhood in ministry. I mean, at my mom and dad, they have to tell me because I was an infant, but at 30 days old, my parents were taking my passport out so I could go to Mexico with them, as missionaries.
Wow.
Yeah. And then at 7, we lived in... At the age of 7, I lived in Guatemala for a year with my parents as missionaries. And all of the rest of the time we were, traveling all over the United States. And so just doing ministry work, that was my normal. I didn't know anything other than that. Like when kids would talk about their high school experience as I got older, I'd be like, is it like High School Musical? Like, is that, they're like, oh, wow. And I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't. I grew up in ministry. We literally kind of, people joke like that we had the Selena lifestyle because, we all lived in a bus. Like we would get in the bus and we'd be like, all right, we're going to New York. We homeschooled.
Okay.
My mom homeschooled. There's 6 of us, and God bless her. I have 1, and it's a lot. So I'm like, Mother, how did you do this with 6?
Yeah.
But she homeschooled us, and I think because of that too, we had so much time to be able to explore just creative, different creative outlets, and making music and writing songs and taking piano lessons and making fake movies and doing all of the things, bro, that you do growing up, because you're like, life is an adventure, like we're in it. And so that was normal for us, that we didn't know, like, it was, when I look back, I'm like, how beautiful that it was just this, we lived this very fearless, like, we do ministry. And it was just this, like, it was a beautiful time. Now, I will say I don't know, I guess it is the negative side of being a pastor's kid, is there was the pedestal that was involved from the beginning. And it's interesting because I think, like, when you're growing up, like, my mom would say something like, hey, guard your testimony, right? And as a kid, you hear that, and you create whatever concept that you feel that means, And I think for me as a kid, like, I know my mom was trying to protect us, but I took that as like, hey, failure is not an option, So I would say the dark side, the tension, the unhealthy side, I think, of sometimes growing up in, to a point, that ministry spotlight, because we would be at churches, we were sitting in the front row, like, pastors would come up to us all the time and compliment us on who we were, and like, mothers would come up to my sisters and I and be like, we want our sons to marry women like you, and we were like, oh, like, that was normal, like, you grew up in that, so you kind of, this pedestal is built for you, and you're like, oh, we're amazing, like, and you believe it, which is beautiful. Because, like, as a mom, I want nothing more than my child to believe that she's amazing, because she is. Yeah. But when you're never, like, bullied, or it's like you kind of, sometimes there's a little bit sometimes of a flat side of, like, hey, maybe we're not processing life completely normally. Come on. And I think as life unfolded, I think we, when I started to, for example, like, navigate failure and disappointing others, like, those things, it wasn't like, I'll learn from it. It was this, like, my world is crumbling, like, everything is ending, and I didn't know how to handle that. And so that's like a whole nother conversation. That's like a therapy conversation, which I'm a huge fan of counseling therapy. I've done it because I've needed it. But for the most part, growing up in ministry, it was beautiful. It was like, we grew up as a family traveling in a bus. We would sing at every church we would go to. And I will say this, and I love this about my dad, is like, he gave us space to grow up in ministry. And I think that, although that's good. There was the pedestal side, because people's eyes were on us. I feel like my dad always made it a point to, like, let us shine and let us, like, be on stage and sing. And by the age of 2, like, my dad was not like, like how some people care so much about what they look like to others that they won't let their kids up on stage or whatnot. That was not my family or our experience. Like, my dad, we'd be literally wrapping, like, a microphone cord around us, like, as a 3-year-old. And my dad would be singing and, like, laughing, and the congregation would just be like, what is happening? But it's like, he almost let, like, I think to a point, like, he let us just, like, that was our playground, like, the stage, like, being in front of people, singing, worshiping. It was this beautiful, beautiful experience of experiencing the joy of the Lord in ministry. I think so many times it's like, we forget that God is as happy as he is holy. And I heard that once, and that stayed with me, because I feel like my dad gave us room in ministry, which can be so heavy, right? Because especially my dad, he's carrying people's burdens constantly, praying over people, counseling people, walking with people. He always allowed joy to be the center of what he did. And that just radiated through his life and onto us, because he would allow us to experience joy on stage, to be throwing microphones, and he was just like, this is what it is, And beautiful. I look back at that now as a mom who has also been in ministry, being a mom in ministry. And I look back at that, and I really love when I get to implement moments like that with my daughter, where because she loves loves to be on stage. Oh my God. I feel like all my siblings and I, we see that with our kids.
Super creative. I mean, your family is super creative. Let me ask you something. Like, you grew up in music, ministry, that kind of stuff, just because your dad was taking you traveling, all that kind of stuff. Was there like a specific moment where it clicked for you and you're just like, okay, no, music, God's actually giving me this gift and I'm running with it?
No, I absolutely had that moment. I had graduated high school and, my siblings started to like get jobs and, kind of stay home. Because at that point we were always traveling with my dad. So it'd be like, hey, we're leaving to Arizona for a month. Cool. Pack up. Let's go. And as, we got older, some of my siblings started to stop traveling. And I got to a point where I was like, at the beginning, we had this group called Pure. It was my brother, sister, and I. And it was the three of us. So when they decided to stop traveling, I was like, I'm the harmonizer of this group. I'm not the lead. Because I would lead a little bit, but I had the alto like harmony. Like that was my part of the band. So I was like, I kind of went to God and was like, do I go to college? Do I find a job? Like, what do I do? And I was just kind of in this place of uncertainty because all I knew was my normal, which was traveling, ministry, like, doing all of that. And I just remember like really going to the Lord and it was like with heaviness. Like it was like, God, what do I do with my life? Like I feel like I've just been raised for ministry and I don't know anything else. But at the same time, if I need to go and, figure out like, get a 9-to-5, like, just so I can make money and, establish myself, at home. Like, and I'll never forget in that season of my life, every time I went to the Lord and inquired, I just felt like he was just like, be faithful where I've placed you. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, because we hear that sometimes, right? There's these beautiful things that God will say and we're like, what does that mean? There's been so many times where God has told me, be faithful where I've planted you. Be faithful where I've placed you. And I'm just like, okay. And in my heart of hearts, I knew that meant to stay faithful traveling with my dad. And it was weird though, because I was an adult. Like I was already an adult. I was like, I'm an adult woman. Yeah. I mean, I was a young adult at that point. So not fully into the womanhood thing yet, but I was a young, a young adult. And I just felt like, isn't that awkward, God? Like I'm already, 18, 19, still traveling with mom and dad. Like, what am I doing? Like before it made sense because I was underage. I was still being homeschooled, like, but now it's like, I don't know. Like, and my dad, like, and I'll say this, like, I think primarily most of like 95% of the churches we went to were Hispanic and they were small churches. So it wasn't this like, oh, I'm staying because it's like this limelight moment for me. And it's funny because I think at that, there was a season of my life where I had this dream to be like the Mexican Latina Hannah Montana for Jesus. Like I was I want to do pop music for Jesus and I want to be global. And like I had this like dream. And so with that, I did care about how many people were in the room because that meant I would be achieving my dreams, right? So when I felt like the Lord was like, stay faithful where I've planted you, position yourself. Like it was this like, what does that mean, God? Like I don't really get that. And again, in my heart of hearts, knew he was telling me, be faithful, keep traveling with dad. And so I did. And it was weird. And it was like, it was uncomfortable because I'm over here watching like other family members, like kind of get established, find jobs, like, and, cause they wanted to start their lives as well. And I was just like, what am I doing? And I'll never forget on a trip, I remember I did not want to go on said trip. I was fighting it because I knew where we were staying.
Come on,
and if you know me,
Come on, Red Roof. Was it the Red Roof? Let's go.
I think the Red Roof might have been a step up from where we were staying. Okay. No. I'm not going to get into the details. It's fine. But I knew where we were staying. Just kind of a situation where it was like there was going to be pet urine on the ground. And, I was just not trying to do that. But okay. And in my heart of hearts, I felt like God was like, you're supposed to be on this trip. And I was like, dang it, I don't want to go on this trip. And again, fought against it, but finally decided to surrender and, my will and be like, all right, here we go. on that trip, my life forever changed.
Wow.
I think it's interesting because when I think back to that moment, I think there's so many times God allows us to be in uncomfortable seasons, uncomfortable moments, but there's a blessing behind that. And I think so many times if we are being moved by our comfortability, if we're being moved by what we feel makes sense, oftentimes I think we hinder ourselves from seeing what God wants to do in and through us. And I look back at that moment because, Jarrell, had I stayed home, I don't know if I'd be sitting here with you today. You know, part of why I'm sitting here is because of the impact that God has allowed me to make through my music.
Yes. Yeah.
That trip was what turned everything around for me in my music. And so I think back to, had I been like, I don't want to stay at this specific place we're going to, it's going to be uncomfortable. I don't want to go. I don't want to take that flight. I would have totally not been positioning myself, being faithful where God had asked me, be faithful, position yourself for what I have for you. You may not understand, you may not get it, trust me. And it was an act of trust, me stepping into that space going, on that trip, I met my producer. On that trip, I was offered essentially a record deal, you know, and it was everything that launched my music career. And I always remember that, Jarrell, because I think it reminds me to this day, like how many times do we find ourselves in seasons where we're uncomfortable, where we don't want to be faithful, you know, we're like, God, I don't, what does that mean? I don't want to do it, you know? And I think that so many times when we yield our will and our wants and our desires and our comfortability and we surrender that to him, I think we'd be so surprised at what he does and what he does with our obedience. And he takes it and just honestly blows our mind. And that's kind of what I've experienced.
Come on. Now, I love that. I'm a PK too, you know, and so I can relate to a lot of the things that you're saying, from even just this fishbowl kind of, you live in a fishbowl, everybody gets to see things, and and at the same time, the call, right, is to be faithful, not to what ministry could look like, but to Jesus, faithful to Jesus in the middle of all that. And so it's wow, that's beautiful. So I've got a question, and I'm going to kind of shift the conversation a little bit, because I grew up here in San Antonio. I was born in Germany. Parents were in the military, came here when I was 2, and just lived in San Antonio pretty much, you know, my whole life. And so I've been kind of like an observer of the culture of the city. I love San Antonio.
San Antonio.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It's a little ghetto out here sometimes, bro, but we love it. Hey, I can say that on my feet.
That's right. Yeah, and I could just amen. Amen.
I embrace that. Wear my hoops and wear them today. It's okay.
And so one of the things that I see, because, you know, as a musician, as an artist, I really do see like artists as missionaries.
Yes,
you know, missionaries to the culture. And so because of that, we have to like look at what's happening in culture, and see how, you know, the gospel translates into that. One of the things that I'm seeing in San Antonio, predominantly Hispanic culture, right, is like I love like the deep relation, like the family relationship.
Yes. Oh my
the
gosh.
Family culture here it's a big deal, right?
It is.
And I think that when the enemy wants to come in and pollute something, he flips the good things about culture and just kind of flips it on its head. So here in Bexar County, domestic violence is huge, right? All of these different things. And so I want to talk about conflict resolution, like what that actually look like. What that looks like in your house, in your family, all of that kind of stuff, because I think that it could actually bless a lot of people.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Bless God. Let's go there.
I mean, I mean, seriously, like there's so many. So I'm working with this organization called South Texas Alliance for Orphans.
Wow.
And I'm connecting young adults who are aging out of foster care with mentor families. And the amount of dysfunction in family we're talking offline about healthy relationships.
Yeah.
The amount of dysfunction in family, the amount of dysfunction just everywhere, it just bleeds into everything, right? So, and I think that's the enemy trying to pervert something that is good in our culture, which is like God gave us this, I feel like, as a gift, right? He gave us this culture of family connection and deep family culture, all that kind of stuff. So when situations arise in your house, like what does that look like? What is conflict resolution?
I love that you're bringing this up, because I do think that like we forget. I love that we see God's heart reflected a lot in Genesis, because it's the beginning, right? Yeah. Like it's the beginning of humanity, and what he desired was family. That's why he created Adam and Eve. He desired community. Family should be healthy community. That's what it should be.
Yeah.
I think that, and I say that because I think there are people, unfortunately, who, again, have come from backgrounds where it's not an option for them to have relationships with their family, but community is always an option. I think that when we lose sight of that, then we find ourselves in a really dark hole. And I feel like reminding people that, hey, even if you don't have, maybe a mom or a dad or siblings, find community, because godly community can be just as healthy as a beautiful family, the way God intended it to be. If you're where you should be, and find the right community. And I'll say conflict resolution in our household was something that needed to be established early because of how many people were in our household. I mean, when I tell you, we were I need to ask my dad the length of the bus that we had, but all of us were in there. I mean, that's 6 kids plus 2 adults. So, you've got all these people sharing one bathroom, sharing a small space. So it wasn't like you could fight and then be like, I'm going to go sit in the KOA bathroom. Like, cool. Yeah. Like you could do that, but it wasn't going to last long. You were going to come back in because you had to go to bed. So I think for us early on, we learned that, and no family's perfect, right? By any means. And I will say even now, I'm learning still a lot about conflict resolution, even as a mom, right? So, I think for us, what I will say, the thing that I'll highlight that stood out to me the most was I'm forever grateful that if, my mom, for example, ever lost her cool, or, just didn't handle something in the right way, she would always come back and ask forgiveness to her kids.
That's good.
And I think that established such a healthy foundation in our home, because it made, I've learned this as a mom, we create culture in our home. Like women that are listening, like you have such a vital role in the home. So do men, but I'm going to talk for moms real quick because that's the role I'm in right now. And I saw that with my own mom, like creating culture, humbling herself, asking for forgiveness. And so what happens then? Your kids are reflecting that now. Because, when they go to one another, it's like, hey, like, I shouldn't have said that up to you or about you. I'm sorry. Like, forgive me. Like, and my parents were not a fan of the I'm sorry. It needed to be forgive me. Like, it was kind of this, like they were
fully humble yourself.
Fully humble yourself. And it was like, I'm sorry. We can't say, I apologize. It was like, no, you asked forgiveness.
Yeah.
Like,
mercy.
Literally have mercy on me. And, I feel like my dad also, he just was such a beautiful example of what, he was just the best example of what humble leadership in a man should be. And we got a front row seat to that. And so I think for us, although, yes, there was conflict. Did we get disciplined because we would, pull each other's hair and scratch each other as kids? Of course. Yeah. Like that. We were 6 kids, like siblings. It was wild, but learning to have conversations, learning to talk through just kind of what it is that we were navigating, feeling. I will say, as we've gotten older, that has become even healthier. And I'm grateful for that. That's because good. I think, thank God for resources like counseling and therapy and books and podcasts and, where I'm the type of person where if I'm struggling with something, Jarrell, I will literally go and find a book or a podcast or a counselor that can help me navigate what I'm trying to heal from or get through, because I think so many times we make the mistake of thinking, I'll figure this out on my own.
Yeah.
Scripture says it's not good for a man to be alone, because there's a lot of things we can't figure out on our own. You know what I mean? Certain things, yes, through the power of the Holy Spirit. But there's a lot of things that we need help. We need resources. We need community. We need family. And in order for us to step into those spaces, we have to be able to humble ourselves and realize I need help in this area. You know, I'm a reactive person instead of responding to a situation, I react. And so where does that come from? Like, why do I do those things? And, you know, I feel like the root behind a lot of our sin is fear, and it's, you know, pride. And there's just so much of that there. And that's a whole nother topic. But in it, I feel like, you know, I recently, full transparency, a few weeks ago, I went to go see my counselor, and I was just like, I'm navigating this, and this. I want to be in spaces, Jarrell, where I'm being challenged to be better. And I'm grateful that I really do look back on my childhood at like the foundation that was set that I believe created that part of importance for me to realize peace and harmony in the home is so important. Yeah. It's not always perfect, but it's so important. Like, you know, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Like these are things that we see and we read in scripture. They're there for a reason, because we weren't meant to carry things that we have a lot of people walking around carrying. How many times I've walked around carrying stuff, and even with my husband, it's like, babe, we need to talk through this. Like, I feel like we didn't really resolve that. And I feel like sometimes as women, we're the ones to come and circle back on like things that men were like, we resolved that, right? We're good. And it's, as women, we're like, no. Like, so I feel like in a lot of areas, Jarrell, like, I think it's the humility aspect that I saw growing up that really created a beautiful dynamic for conflict resolution. I think if you're willing to be humble, you can resolve anything. Yeah. Bottom line, even if it's we're going to agree to disagree, Jarrell, right? Like you can still resolve and come into a place of unity because, you know, there's humility involved. Yeah. Yeah.
So in music, right? Specifically Christian music, there, okay, correct me if I'm wrong.
Tell me.
So I do a lot of spoken word now.
Yes.
Before that, I was doing a lot of hip hop, like just mainly hip hop, right? And Christian audiences just did not readily receive that. So there was a lot of, there's a lot of that.
The Christian audiences.
We're going to talk about it like right now. We're going to talk about it right now.
They be refining, you know.
Oh my goodness. Refiner's fire. You know what I mean?
You know.
I'd love to hear how you navigate the whole I'm telling you, like,
oh, bro, and you put me in the Latino America, like that.
There's culture on top of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's the same thing with Black culture.
Like I love, bro. I feel like white culture be chill. Yeah. Like, you know, you be putting on a salsa song at you know, a white, you know, culture event, like, and everyone's dancing, and if it's not a Christian one, it's like no one knows what's going on. They don't know the lyrics. It's like whatever. But in a Latino environment, it's like, why are you moving? Why stop moving? Bro. Yeah. You about to find out.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too,
because to dance like David dance.
Here's the thing, because you also do like, so you do like worship stuff, but you also do like pop stuff too, right? Yeah. So I feel like some of the pop stuff or anything pop culture, it's just like now there's eyes on it and scrutiny and a whole list of things. How do you navigate that?
You know what, bro? It happened early on, and I'm so grateful. Yeah. And I had an incredible, like, you know, my producer and his wife were like incredible mentors because they had been in the industry. I mean, Latin Grammy, like they were doing all of it, like millions of followers, being nominated for Latin Grammys, going to the Latin Grammys, like. They had done all of it. And so to be mentored by people that had been in it right before I stepped into it, bro, that was, again, God just being like, I'm going to set you up for success. It helped so much because, I think there's been a couple times in my, gosh, how many years has it been? 15 years of doing music that I've kind of found myself in a little bit of a hole of just feeling like really discouraged by the feedback I'm getting. Love Latin America. I think it's come a long way. Like a lot of Latin American, you know, just talking through, I'll say this about Latino culture. Oftentimes there's this idea of, we don't talk about it, right? A lot of things are swept under the rug. A lot of things are not talked about when it comes to just like, you know, issues. And I feel like now we're in a place, thank God for social media, that's kind of brought people to these places. I'll see it, you know, Latin American podcasts talking about like, hey, like mental health and like, talking through stuff like that type of stuff. It was like, if you were, and I'll just say this, like, as a child, if I heard someone was going to counseling, it was like, oh my God, they're suicidal.
Oh yeah.
Like those were the kind of people you put in that category that need help, because Latinos didn't really ask for help. We were not really big on like going to counselors and like, why do you need to go to a counselor? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, so all that being said, how that plays into music is I feel like there's more awareness now. Back in the day, and again, there still is that very conservative, I guess, religious. I don't know what you want to call it. I'll just call it religious.
Yeah,
it's a religious spirit, really. Yeah. And I think that oftentimes when people, because it's like they think they're like little keyboard warriors for God or something. I would get criticized because my nails were painted, because I had makeup on, because I was wearing pants. Like, and again, I think
who does that? Who wears pants?
It's like I'm wearing pants. Like, is that okay? Like, it's just like it was always something. And I, again, grateful that the Lord set me up for success, because I had mentors who just kind of prepped me for it. They were like, hey, this is going to happen. Like, it's coming with the territory. Be ready for it. Don't allow yourself to be, swept in that. Like, don't, like, just focus on all the good comments. Focus on all the, the good feedback, the testimonies. Focus on the life change, the transformation.
That's good.
And I think anytime, I've always been an artist that loves also kind of just like, I just kind of love pushing boundaries too. Like, I've always been, I play it safe, but then I don't. Like, I'm kind of just that person where I'll come out with a worship song and everybody loves it. And then I'll come out with this like reggaeton situation and people are like, this is the stop of the Lord. And I'm like, I love that I get to do all kinds of things with music. And so with that, my audience is sometimes a little bit conflicting, because you've got the ones that are like, they're all in support of the worship stuff. But the moment I put out something that it doesn't feel like their form of, worship, they're hating on it or saying things. And I'm just I think I got to a place, Jarrell, where is this bad? When I get like hate comments, negative, even now on my content creation stuff, whatever, I'm like, you're boosting my algorithm, please. Like, is that bad? I don't know if that's like the spiritual answer you were looking for, but honestly,
that's real,
it's a little bit of that for me now. I'm like, shoot, please keep commenting, because even if you're bringing other haters with you, like, you're boosting my algorithm. Bless God, this could get into the right, the content might get to the right person.
That's a content creator mindset right there.
But as far as like everything else, I think early on, and again, I think this just comes from roots, childhood. Like, I learned my relationship with Jesus was personal. And because of that, I could have someone come up to me, bro, like, full transparency, had pastors come up to me face to face and be like, I need you to change your outfit. You can't wear that on our stage. Put a dress on, please. Like, when you it's almost like you are brought up in an environment where you start to become so unfazed by things, because you're like, I look back at that and I'm like, whoa. And like, I remember one specific time, like, Joe was with me. I was married, and Joe was just like, the heck you are telling my wife what to wear. Bro, like,
no way.
And you know what? And I remember just in that moment being like, babe, it's okay. It's okay. We're like in his office, like pastor's office. And I'm like, it's okay, babe. I'll just throw on a dress. It's not a big deal. Like, I did not want to deal with that. And even in that, it was hard, Jarrell, because I was about to step on stage. So imagine you're about to step on stage. You're being pulled into the pastor's office, being told this stuff, which you think about that, like so objectifying, like, in a way, like, it feels like I'm being so disrespected in this moment. I was not wearing anything inappropriate at all. Like, it was like literally a dress, a blouse with some, black slacks, and being told you need to put a dress on if you're going to sing on that stage. And I remember Joe being like, did we just leave? Let's go. Like, he was wanting to protect me, because it was this like, no, ma'am, you're not going to put yourself through that. And I just remember like taking a moment and just being like, I'll throw the dress on, babe. Like, I'm not going to let what I don't agree with in this moment rob someone out there from being blessed by what God may want to do tonight. And the times that I humbled myself, even in that sense, Jarrell, because I had every right to walk out. That's just the truth. But I remember, Jarrell, like seeing God move beautifully in those environments and services. And I really think it just, again, it goes back to humility, humbling ourselves and being like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have handled that way, but Lord, I'm your vessel. And whatever I've got to do to be used by you, if I've got to freaking put on a paper bag so someone can listen, I'll do that.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not above being told things. And like, again, if it goes against like my, you know, moral compass, of course, I'm never going to do anything like that. But if it's something where I'm just like, you know what, they want me to wipe my makeup off, let's just do that. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like
wild. Well, you know what? That actually, I mean, it reminds me of Paul, you know, like that whole context of becoming all things to all people so that he can win some, right? It's just like,
so I'll do it in that setting, but then I'll also do it in a setting when I'm going to put out a reggaeton song and do some dance moves to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I adapt in both. And I'm grateful that I think for me, it just comes down to, you know, being all things to all people. It's the heart posture behind what you do. Like I've learned that in music industry, it's like, if you're in it for the wrong reasons, go find a 9-to-5, go find something that is going to move the needle, gratify, you know, your ideas and your, you know, your whatever it is that you aspire to do and be. But, you know, I feel like in, you know, when it comes down to what we do as ministers of the gospel, whether it's in music, whether it's as worship leaders, whether it's as stay-at-home moms, like taking that posture of humility, of being like, what is the heart posture behind what I'm doing? You know, when I'm serving my daughter, when I'm serving a congregation, when I'm serving a worship team, it's like taking the posture of humility of like, how do I serve in this moment with the heart of the Father?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's why, you know, I've been in the city for a long time, know a lot of different worship leaders and everything. And I think that's one of the things I'm really concerned about is, you know, a lot of artists will elevate their need for artistic expression and I'm going to be me and do me over the need to win people, you know, to Jesus. And so shifting the conversation one more time, you were serving as a worship leader.
Yeah.
You just recently had a transition.
Yes.
Tell me what you're into right now. You're in your new era. So I want to hear what's up.
I am in my new era. It is one of those things, Jarrell, where last year, if you would have told me I would have been in the season I'm in now, I would have been like, no way. I had no plans to leave my director role, like no plans at all. I was, you know, content. I was doing what I loved.
Great church,
incredible. Like my pastor, I was just sharing with some of the guys in the office next door. I'm like, my pastor is just one of the most beautiful leaders I've ever gotten to serve under. Just learned so much from him. But when I started to feel the tension that doing what I loved was now not the thing that like I started to feel was right for the season that I was in, specifically as a director. Because, you know, I feel like I worked my whole life to get that director role. I mean, that's like the top role you can be in at a church as a director, and especially over worship and creative ministry. And so to find myself in this place of feeling like, God, I'm being pulled in, you know, I'm wearing so many hats, being pulled in so many different directions. We were also, you know, a medium-sized church. So with that, there's more tensions because you are wearing a lot of hats. And, you know, I had a whole volunteer team under me. And at the same time, being a mom of a toddler, like it was just, there was a lot there. And I kind of felt like for the season that God was calling me into, it was like, hey, you need to not be carrying all this the way you are anymore. Like as a director, and that's also another part of who I am, Jarrell. Like if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. Yeah. And so when I started to feel, I don't know that I can devote myself to this director role anymore, I really had to kind of take inventory and be like, what's right for the team? Because could I keep faking it till I make it? For sure. Leadership isn't going to know. Like they're just going to see like outcomes. But I know behind closed doors that I'm like feeling the stress of the role, that I'm not really feeling, you know, the joy that I used to feel in this role because my season's shifting. And I think so many times it's like, I know there's people that don't agree with like grace being lifted. I feel like that's what's been my experience when 100%. When I feel like the grace gets lifted for a season, I'm like, I used to love this. Why is it that I'm now frustrated about the thing that I used to love? And so you start to take inventory of like, okay, why do I feel that? Where did that thought come from? Like, and I think, again, if you're a person of integrity, my hope is that you would have conversations with your leadership, which is what I had to do. First off, with my husband, started sharing with him where I was at. And I even told him, like, full transparency, full honesty, Jarrell. I was like, I know this isn't even the best time financially for me to even be bringing this up, for me to be bringing up the fact that I'd be walking away from my salary. Like, it's not the best time for me to be bringing this up. Like, I mean, anybody who, you know, works in ministry and, you know, you understand that like it's a life of faith. And so having a salary was very nice because it was like the check hitting every 2 weeks, you know, but feeling this like invitation from the Lord of like, can you trust me? And my husband being like, babe, we're going to be okay. Like, whatever you do, like, you know, my husband's at that point, my husband was a sales rep. And also, again, very much a living by faith kind of situation because it was commission based only. And so it was feast or famine, you know? And so even in that, me being like, okay, like, we're not going to have consistent income. What? Like, I'm a person who values security, Jarrell. So that was a very hard decision for me to make. But, you know, that's more of like, you know, just the practical side of it.
Sure.
I feel like more than anything, what I'm so grateful for is as my husband and I would talk, as I went into conversations with leadership, because I was even nervous to talk to my pastor. I was just like, I feel like I'm going to disappoint him. Like, we started this thing together. Like him and I are the only like OGs on staff from when we planted the church. Like, I feel like, you know, I'm walking away. Like, what? The peace of God covered every single conversation. Like, when I tell you unity of spirit, where I would get even prophetic words from people that did not know what I was going through, just, hey, I feel like transition's coming for you. Where did you come up with that? I did not tell you a thing. Or just like getting, even just like, you know, Instagram will send, they'll like the inspirational quotes will pop up and, you know, your birthday month, whatever. And like, this is your year of alignment, transitions happening. But what? And I would just be like, God, what? So I almost felt like the Lord prepped my heart for 6 months before my official transition moment happened. And I'm grateful for that, Jarrell. Like, I even see God's goodness and his kindness in that. And so, right now I'm in a season where I am full-time mommy, which is amazing, you know, and my husband and I, since then, he also resigned from his sales job, which was another step of faith. Again, hilarious, Jarrell, because I was telling my husband, I was like, God has such a sense of humor, because had my husband resigned prior to me leaving Familia, I wouldn't have left. Yeah. Because I'm a security person. I would have been like, no, I'll just hold down here. I'll just stay here. I'll keep working. And I probably would have been working with no grace, you know, and it would have just I probably would have ended up hurting some people. Yeah. Just because it's like, when you're not where you're meant to be, that's when icky stuff starts happening in leadership. And I feel like leaders need to hear that, because if you've overstayed your welcome in a position or a role, that's when you start to cause church hurt. And I think I was very self-aware because of so many people I discipled. I was like, I don't want to be that leader. I don't want to be in a role for a paycheck to where I'm hurting people just so I can be somewhere for security purposes. Absolutely not. And so God has a sense of humor, pulled me out of my role, pulls my husband out of his. And now we are in this very exciting, adventurous, sometimes scary season of fully trusting God. We started a coffee company a few months back, and, you know, we're trying to get that off the ground. Yeah. I'm also trying to start a consulting business, you know, with my experience in worship leading. I feel like I saw so much within the church that I learned a lot that I believe can help other ministries and other churches, specifically worship teams. Jarrell, I feel like so many times I see that worship teams don't get the nurturing, the attention, the discipleship that they need. And we carry 50% of that service. 50% of that service goes to the worship team. And so many times it is a ministry or a team that is burning out, that is, being left unchecked, where there's no accountability, where there's no, and creatives are messy. Like we are. That's just the truth. We need accountability. Yeah. We need safe spaces. Jarrell, I had spaces on my team where I had people on my team come up to me and be like, struggling with pornography, struggling with my wife and I are separating, like different conversations, Jarrell, where I believe it was so important for us to create spaces for people to be vulnerable. Why? Because what's the alternative? We don't create that space. And then what happens? People are rotting in sin, but still serving at church. And we don't have anyone there to keep accountability, to nurture, to disciple, to walk with them. And I am so grateful. And I don't say that to like toot my own horn, but I am so grateful, Jarrell, that God has given me that gift and the ability to walk with people through their mess. Like, and people feel that, where there's not this sense of like, I can't tell her, she's the director, I cannot. The amount of conversations I would get pulled into. And I always counted it as an honor to be able to walk with people through whatever it is that they were navigating, walking with them through that process towards healing, towards living and stepping into everything that God has for them. Because so many times I think as creatives, we get stuck in this rut. We don't invite people in. There's no accountability. And we don't know like why we're not experiencing the abundant life. We don't know why we're not, experiencing the more of what God has for us. And it's just like, I think so many times it's something that is not talked about enough. It's not seen enough. And so all that being said, I feel like God had put in my heart, I had done a worship boot camp for our church last summer, and just the beautiful outcome that came from that, the feedback that I got, it left me. It was
so needed too.
It was so much feedback, Jarrell, that I couldn't turn a blind eye to it. Like I was like, there's something on this. And so with that, I'm praying through it. I'm slowly working through what that looks like. And that's a little bit of me, where it's like we're a cluster of starting businesses, of, being family, family mommy and dad, and being present with our daughter, enjoying life. But at the same time being like, okay, we are in full faith season. And I think that it's beautiful though, because I feel like in my whole journey, Jarrell, there have been so many times where, jobs were lost, income was taken, things like that. But the amount of stress I lived under during those seasons, it weighed me down. I mean, I would be having migraines, physically ill, like it would affect me. Yeah. This is probably the first time. And it's interesting because I'm in my 30s, like 34, so mid 30s. And this is the first time where we genuinely don't have anything secure in front of us, but the amount of peace that I have felt in this season. Yeah. When you hear peace that surpasses your understanding, I am learning what it is to live with that. I think before I thought I knew what that was. Yeah. And now I'm like, I fully know what that is. Yeah. And it's beautiful. I think part of it is God's growing something in us, and my husband and I, we're fully yielded. Again, we're open. If God brings another opportunity for my husband to work a 9 to 5, if it's the right thing, we'll take it. Like, we're not like, it's gotta be this or that. We are just in a season of obedience. Every step up to this point, even my husband resigning, it's all been in obedience to God. Yeah. And in that, it doesn't make sense. Recently, I feel like the story that's been brought up to me multiple times is Abraham and Isaac. It's like he was on his way to sacrifice what he loved the most. It made zero sense, but God was like, will you be obedient? Yeah. And that was one of the first times we see that worship is even mentioned in the Bible. And so I feel like God has such a sense of humor, because he's like, you're a worship leader. You're going to know what it is to live under that obedience constantly, and trust me. And it has just been a season of yielding, surrendering, and trusting him. And with that, though, there's just been this beautiful peace that has surpassed my understanding.
I'm so proud of you. Like it's amazing. I mean, my wife and I, we know that exact thing, like jumping out of the boat, had a secure little spot at my dad's church. Yeah. Some things were lining up there, and it was just like, man, I think God's called us to do something different. Yeah. And it's challenging because you really don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But that's where worship and peace and all of these different things come into play. So closing out, how can people find you? This has been a fun interview for me.
Thank you, friend.
I can't wait to clip this up and do all the things. But big fan of you. Going to be supporting you however I can. How can people find you?
First, I want to thank you. God has used you immensely, like in my life. I mean, I don't know that people know this, but it's because of you that God opened the door of Familia Church. I was not looking to leave the church I was at. Like I was not. And when you approached me, we're like, hey, there's a church looking for a bilingual worship leader. I don't even know if you are interested or know anyone. And it's funny because at that point I was like not looking at the role for myself. I was like, oh, you know what? I'll meet with this pastor. I'll vet him to, recommend some people. But little did I know that was the beginning of what God fully had planned out for us, because God knew the prayers we were praying at our previous church of what we were asking him for when it came to community and when it came to wanting to develop and grow in discipleship. And God used you to literally introduce us to, our pastor at the last church that I was at in my director role. And so thank you for always also just being just such a incredible individual to connect people. You're a connector. And I love that God has used you for that, because I think that's it's so needed in the body of Christ. So just want to encourage you and say thank you for that. Yeah. But as far as for anyone listening, I mean, I'm on Instagram as Damaris Guerra, on TikTok, Damaris Guerra Music, YouTube, Damaris Guerra Music. And I've got my emails linked on my Instagram page, on Facebook as well as under Damaris Guerra Music. I'm also on Spotify and Apple Music. Working on some new music. We're actually releasing a song next week.
Let's go.
It's literally a World Cup song. We're doing a song for the World Cup, and I'm super excited. It's in Spanish, but it's a vibe. It's a super fun dancey song. I'm collaborating with a couple friends of mine, Johnny Rez and Isamad, and we're excited. We're excited for that. So yeah, I'm kind of, again, doing a little bit of everything, but I would love to connect with more people, especially women. I feel like my heart is to encourage moms and inspire women that are in their motherhood journey. I know we didn't get into all of this, and maybe another time we can talk through just mom stuff, because there was a season of motherhood that I hid for a long time, and I needed to. I was navigating a lot of internal things, and I think people on this side that are seeing me kind of post in more my confidence era as a mom, it took a while for me to get there. And so I love encouraging moms that are in their fresh postpartum era, because I was walking through some depression and just really dark stuff at that time. Did not want to be in front of a camera at all. Just kind of lost myself for a little bit. And God is so good, because I think even in those seasons, he's so close and he's teaching you so much. And so anyways, that's a whole conversation. But if you're a mom, I'd love for you to follow me. I love sharing it, whether it's recipes or fun finds that, work for our household. Love to get to share that with other moms. So.
Well, it's been an honor to have you on this,
Thank you, Jarrell.
Podcast.
Loved being here.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Thanks. We'll see you soon.